Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Of course, we'd like to encourage you to communicate with us on all our social media platforms at News Central TV. Starting off with our top story this morning, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Wednesday declined to grant bail to the detained leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, pending the determination of the treasonable felony charge the government preferred against him. Trial Justice Binta Nyako held that Kanu must explain the reason why he breached the previous bail that was given to him before he could enjoy another favorable discretion from the court.
The court noted that Kanu's trial had since 2015 suffered various setbacks owing to over 19 interlocutory applications that have been filed in the matter. It therefore implored that parties should allow the case to proceed on trial to enable the charge to be determined one way or the other. And joining us live from Enugu State is Comrade Fidelis Ede. He's a constitutional lawyer and a public affairs analyst. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Comrade Fidelis.
Good morning, my honor.
Good to see you this morning. Let's begin by getting your thoughts on Nnamdi Kanu's case. How would you react to the proceedings so far?
Well, I think what has happened is that you can see a dent of law and politics now. Politics in the sense that government believe it is his duty to maintain law and order. So you can see that playing out in Nnamdi case because the matter for which he is standing trial is a bailable one. And given that it is bailable, I think government is influenced more by, do I use the word now, perception of what IPOD represents, even when nothing has been tied down to its activities in terms of qualifying to constitute direct threats to the government in situ. If you look at what is happening in the Southeast, it will be good to capture this perspective that this struggle or the consciousness coincided with the NSAC struggle, NSAC protest. And as at then, the morale of particularly the police institution was already down. It was down, and the people has also lost confidence in the manner police operations has operated, particularly in the Southeast. So, but what has combined is from the time Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, you can see that Southeast seemed to have been dominated by what you call climate of fear, criminalities, which members of IPOD has continued to deny that they are not the ones instigating this. So for us, we would have thought the government strictly, particularly those who have charged him, strictly concern themselves with the legal aspect of this matter and find a way so that the government and the security agencies in the Southeast can deal with the aspect of criminalities which IPOD has continued to deny that they are not the ones instigating.
All right, Comrade, you've talked about the fact that the crime for which he's being arrested for is a bailable offense. But what we see here is that the court is saying that he must also explain why he breached the previous bail before he can enjoy the discretion of the court. Of the court, I beg your pardon. Don't you think that this is reason enough?
No, you say the court, even by the statement you've made, the court is not saying it's not a bailable offense. But the court is relying on the fact that he had earlier jumped bail. But if you follow that through, particularly when those who stood shorty for him were to be charged, it was very clear, and these were facts that came before the court, that the circumstances that led to Nnamdi jumping bail was direct threat to his life. It was when the military men invaded his home in Umuahia. Before then, he was in Nigeria. Before then, he was obeying the conditions that the court laid down. You see, there are things which the law must try to deal with. For instance, are we now saying, let's use those already convicted. If a prison is caught on fire, or there is a bomb blast in a prison, and you discover that people had escaped trying to save their life, would you immediately interpret that as jumping, running away from the prison yard? So the circumstances which was presented to the court, I think that was when Senator Abaribe appeared in court, that as at the point when the soldiers invaded the home of Nnamdi Kanu, that he was still observing the bail, and that matter had not been conclusively dealt with. That is the aspect of what the court also we have to confront when it is presented. There is a different matter, there is a different circumstances if you granted somebody bail and all of a sudden, on a date that is due to appear in court, the person
doesn't show up
and subsequently does not appear.
All right,
these are the things that are playing out, and that is the aspect of the politics I mentioned earlier.
All right. In the interest of time, Comrade, so we don't, drag it on for too long. There's other things that I wish that we could quickly speak about before we go. This whole court case, the whole Nnamdi Kanu discussion, and of course him being in court, has dragged on for so long. It has affected the source of livelihood of a lot of people in the southeast. The continued sit-at-home order, and everything that has continued to happen, and of course, the emergence of unknown gunmen here and there. Where do we go from here? There's talks about, it's too late for a political settlement with the current administration. But what would you advise that must be done so we can move on from this?
Well, in terms of the impact of his continued detention and the criminality associated with those who pretend to be pursuing in sympathy for his detention, the only thing I think government needed to do is to try to isolate these cases. You cannot quantify what is going on now in Southeast in terms of economic loss, in terms of psychological torture. In fact, we know that in a state of uncertainty, nothing thrives. In fact, a state of war would have been better because you will know that there is war. But that's not the situation in Southeast. For the whole of this week, nothing has taken place. Coupled with the factionalization that have now occurred within IPOB. So one would have thought each time people, like the last visit to Soludo's visit to Nnamdi Kanu, you saw what he said. They said he's always bitter, he's always grieved, he's always pained by what is happening. That is not exactly the intendment or the mode of operation of IPOB. So what one would have thought is that government try to deal with that aspect of finding a way to grant him bail, but it's still going to be conditional bail, so that government can deal with the aspect of criminality. We've seen a lot of people who were also arrested, and it is very obvious that they are not connected to IPOB. How can you begin to explain that people will go and kill people? You'll find people in Shrine, you'll find people in forests that are not related to anything that has to do with even the call for referendum or struggle for liberation. But because it is tied together, it is just like a situation where students who have not prepared for an exam will really want to strike in a school because they think it can buy them time. So I believe there must be a way of isolating his continued need to appear and answer to whatever charge government has for him. And the total collapse of security, which basically is a critical duty of government to provide security and welfare for the people. But in the Southeast, things are going down, particularly in the rural areas. And the call for marginalization was not just misplaced. It is real. You can imagine a people that is already marginalized and who fend for themselves, and all of a sudden being locked in their homes. And when they step out, they are not too sure what will happen.
In fact,
So it is a
Fidelis,
hopeless situation.
indeed, we're starting to get reports of a potential impending sit-at-home order or lockdown in Anambra State. But we'll be bringing updates on this, and we'd love to have you again to further discuss as this case proceeds. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
My honor. It's a privilege being with you.
Thank you.